Greetings, and thank you for joining me in this presentation of the work and the practices of the school and hospital in Sarajevo, Bosnia and Herzegovina, which operates as a department of elementary school Vrhbosna in Sarajevo. My name is Krečo, and over the next half an hour, we will explore why hospital schooling matters, how it is organized day to day, and where do we plan to grow next. These slides will highlight some of the main points, while I will weave in the stories and the data collected over our 2 decades of practice. Let us begin. Hospital schooling is an inclusive educational phenomenon that arose once we recognized that high-quality education needs uh, are not and often cannot occur solely inside the traditional classroom. As early as 1960s, educators moved lessons outdoors to museums, factories, and finally into the children's homes. When children become long-term patients, it was only logical to bring the school to the wards, ensure that education progress does not freeze while children are fighting their illnesses. 20 years ago, a handful of volunteers formalized that idea inside the Sarajevo Pediatric Clinic, turning the sporadic lesson giving into a structured branch of the elementary school Vrhbosna in Sarajevo. Today, we mark the success of everyone: teachers, doctors, parents, and others who have cooperated with us and who have made all of this possible. Our mission is rather clear: create an educational environment in the hospitals where pupils maintain their learning continuity, cultivate their potential and resilience, and are guided professionally with empathy and professionalism. When child is admitted, our first promise is simple and clear: your schooling continues here. Nothing changes. That statement alone reduces anxiety and preserves identity from the children whose schooling is one of their main activities in their daily lives. This mission guides us for every operational decision and our practice that you will see later. We aspire to apply cutting-edge learning methods, become a model of multidisciplinary care, supporting mental and the physical health along the education. In practice, this means blending pedagogy, psychology, occupational therapy, clinical medicine, and putting everything of this into a seamless experience. To put it simply, we teach and we help heal. Why insist on the continuity? Well, research, as well as 2 decades of lived experience, shows that mental equilibrium and preserved societal ties accelerate recovery. Interrupting schooling can set up pupils back academically as well as emotionally. Continuous learning, whether it is in micro lessons or anything similar, maintains cognitive muscle tone and eases reintegration once the treatment in hospital ends. Moreover, maintaining continuity gives child a structure to hold on in otherwise unfamiliar and rather unpredictable environment. It sustains their sense of identity, motivates goal setting, and gives meaning to their days. Importantly, it also helps preserve the sense of normalcy. When everything else feels medical, school offers something quite familiar to them. Its continuity provides immense emotional relief for the parents too. Knowing that their child, is intellectually engaged and emotionally supported, even during the treatments in hospitals, eases financial stress and their worries. It also reassures them that their child's education and social development are not being sacrificed. For example, one pupil undergoing dialysis 3 times a week maintained regular contact with a school teacher through video calls and personalized assignments. Even if we could only engage in 10 minutes a day, that was enough to feel included in his class community, continue progress. Another pupil recovering from the surgery kept working on a comic book, for example, comic book project started before the admission. This sense of purpose helps her push through rehabilitation sessions as she looked forward to completing and sharing her story with her peers, their colleagues in class. Continuity is not only about academic outcomes, it is about belonging, emotional safety, dignity, and peace of mind for the families. A teacher is a vital bridge between educational and medical teams. We, as teachers, coordinate treatment schedules with lesson times. We communicate actively with pupils' regular school, ensuring that materials, assignments, and other assessments are shared and aligned. We develop plans for the pupils to move through wards and return to their home schools. We ensure that every child receives individual approach, adapted to their health situation, their interests, and their curriculum needs. We carefully document, using the formational monitoring, each pupil's progress and work with dedicated portfolios, which are shared with their primary schools and parents as needed once they finish and during their treatments. In short, teachers translate medical constraints into pedagogical opportunities, ensure no child falls behind academically or emotionally. In school and hospital, there is no typical day. Instead, we have three rules that steer us. Our flexibility, schedules adjust to situations with children when it comes to their lab tests, their sudden fatigue, worsening conditions, and so forth. Medical alignment gives the concise prospect of each child's condition and the focus. Lessons are concise, purposeful, and never executed that in the way that exceeds the child's stamina, their abilities. One example, on Tuesday afternoon, for example, teacher arrives at the clinic at 3 p.m. and checks with the medical team. He or she learns that one of her regular pupils is undergoing a blood transfusion. It won't be available after 4. Another pupil has been discharged. All the while, a new child has arrived from the other city and naturally feels rather anxious. What teacher does is that he or she adapts quickly, prepares the gentle welcome activity for the new pupil, maybe sometimes use the tactile learning cards, shifts the math lesson for the transfusion patient to later, and later spends time leading storytelling session, for example, for 2 preschoolers in the oncology ward, for example. Later in the day, he video calls the regular teacher from the new pupil and works to align curriculum goals. Throughout this day, he documents, consults with the nurses about the fatigue levels of the child, adjusts schedules accordingly. Like I said, this is not a typical day. What we work is that we adapt and we operate in the fluid, child-centered, and purpose-driven way and environment. We deliver materials through elements of modality and thematic blocks. Each module has its set micro goals, and the progress is documented daily. The structure allows the child who missed, for example, 3 days for chemotherapy to return to the exact point where they left off. Again, we return to there is no typical way in which we manage. We always adapt to the children's needs. To ensure emotional continuity, teachers communicate regularly with each pupil's primary school. Classroom teachers from their home school send assignments, textbooks, for example, or specific content that pupil needs to keep up. In turn, our hospital teachers adapt and deliver the content in the way that fits the child's current condition and their current energy and stamina levels. We document each session, as I said already. We document the topics covered, duration, progress that is made, and we observe challenges or achievements and send periodic summaries to the home school, and we also inform the parents. This two-way exchange creates a shared understanding of the pupil's journey and enables a smooth transition back into regular education once the treatment ends. For example, a fourth grade student was admitted for several weeks for physical therapy. Her regular teacher emailed math assignments aligned with the national curriculum. Our hospital teacher presented them in a shortened sessions using manipulatives and visuals, documented outcomes, and shared feedback weekly with the homeschool. When the child returns from the hospital, he or she is fully prepared, up to date, and ready to continue. Every morning, we hold short team meetings, and each day we assure concise feedbacks among teachers, nurses, parents. These practices keep everyone aligned, the problems visualized early and then identified and accordingly corrected in situations. Equally, the importance of feedback we provide to pupils cannot be understated. We believe that constructive, encouraging feedback fosters confidence, reinforces the sense of achievement for the kids. Teachers take time to review the pupils' work individually, of course, and when possible and also accepted, we celebrate their efforts and progress, no matter how small they may be. For children, and anything of such kind is exceedingly useful, especially in medical environments. Feedback is often delivered both verbally, visually, and adapted to a child's energy and their own communication style. Some children prefer sticker charts, for example, or emoji responses, especially the younger ones, of course. Others benefit from reflective conversations when they can help set micro goals for the current or the next session, for example. We also encourage pupils to self-assess and express how they feel about their own learning. This not only boosts the engagement, but also nurtures autonomy and the emotional insight. In one case, for example, pupil recovering from surgery was proud to hear that her story was praised and displayed within the ward's common area. It made her feel seen, capable, motivated to keep writing, and its emotional impact cannot be understated, of course. But transparent communication, of course, is one of the lubricants of the schools or the hospital schooling. Among professionals, their families, most importantly, the pupils themselves. Our mantra always is teaching is brought to the pupils, not vice versa. There are no formal barriers. If a child can listen, read, gesture, or even blink in certain situations, we can find a channel to reach them and to teach them. Imagine walking at the ward at 9 o'clock, for example. In one room, a teenager codes microbit project. Next door, day 6-0, the child practices phonics with picture cards. Down the hall, a group video calls their math teacher in the other city. That's a mosaic of our daily reality, and it's never the same from day to day. To keep our lessons engaging, we adopt STEAM framework, maintaining the mix of science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, paired with 4 key competencies, or 4 Cs for short: critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration. A STEAM principle connects the theory with the real world, motivates pupils through hands-on activities, and builds their self-confidence. In hospital room, simple experiments of mixing food colorings, for example, and bicarbonates can illustrate acid-base reactions and distract from comfort. Another example can be, for example, a hospital garden project. Pupils planted microgreens in recycled containers, tracked their growth through the different light conditions, and also, if older, recorded data on their own homemade charts, or digitally recorded them as in the way in which it is possible. Alongside learning biology and measurements, they discussed healthy nutrition and shared their harvests with their parents and staff. Even short-term patients contributed by decorating plant labels, for example, or creating drawings of the plant cycles. This kind of activity blends science, art, environmental education, giving pupils tangible connection to their lives beyond the hospital, as well as between each other. Thematic units blend multiple subjects. For example, healthy lungs ties biology, mathematics with art. Activities are divisible, allowing us to teach in short bursts and maintain interdisciplinarity, which is a cornerstone of STEAM project. One such example is Water and Life module. A pupil's home school, for example, sent materials for geography, water cycles, biology, hydration, and human body, and mathematics, for example, measuring volume. Our hospital team designs an integral series of short lessons, observing water condensation on the windows to explain the cycle of water in biology, in geographics, I'm sorry. Also, for example, measuring IV fluid bags for maths practice, and also journaling how water helps the human body recover in cases of dehydration, for example, loss due to diarrhea or some other conditions. A child completed a drawing showing their understanding, which was later scanned and sent back to their home schools as a part of progress feedback, which after that, teachers in their home schools can, of course, use for their grades, monitoring progress, adapting future lessons, and so forth. Each of our lessons tries to embed these critical forces. To elaborate a bit of them, critical thinking includes analyzing symptoms to hypothesize causes, for example. This nurtures logical reasoning and problem solving, helping pupils better understand both academic content and their own health situations as well. When you talk about creativity, we can take example of designing a well greeting card in augmented reality or with pen and paper, whatever it suits the best. Engaging the imagination offers emotional relief, enhances engagement, and allows self-expression, especially important when the verbal communication can be at times limited. Communication and collaboration often go in pairs. For example, planning a worldwide science fair. These skills can promote social interaction, build confidence, encourage children's teamwork, and all of which are essential for emotional resilience and their integration later when they've finished their treatments in hospital. To develop these competencies, we often begin with communication, of course, engaging, encouraging pupils to express their thoughts, feelings, and ideas with us as teachers and between each other. As communication strengthens, collaboration follows naturally as pupils begin to work together and support each other. This safe and supportive environment becomes a foundation for their creativity to flourish. Pupils feel empowered to explore, take risks with reason, of course, in the way that their health condition would not be in any jeopardy, and also knowing that their ideas are welcomed and respected. And once the creativity is expressed, it can be evaluated not for rigid grading, but for encouragements, reflections, shared celebrations, ensuring feedback is constructive and growth-oriented in a friendly, emotionally secure environment. Our toolkit can span also digital platforms, for example, World War, Tinkercad, even the use of AI tutors, for example. And of course, we can also use classical paper worksheets. Choice of the tool hinges on the child's energy levels, their device access, infection control rules, and many others. For example, a child recovering from a surgery with very limited mobility use the word games on their tablet to revise vocabulary through matching exercises. This is exceedingly useful for especially the younger pupils. Another pupil, for example, with a background interest in design can use a Tinkercad to design a 3D model of their dream playground, for example, linking in both geometry and their emotional self-expression. Meanwhile, a young learner without a device access uses a set of printed worksheets combined with handmade board game to review basic math operations in a playful way. The key is to select the right tool for the right moment. Always personalized, often co-created, and never rigid. Our goal in all of these practices is always one, an active and empowered and engaged pupil. Ultimately, we place the pupil at the center, orchestrate a gradual return to regular schooling, and strive for an increased sense of control, participation, and most importantly, their personal success. We aim to involve pupils in sharpening their own learning experiences, even in small ways. For example, choosing the order of tasks, setting goals, or reflecting on what they have already achieved. This fosters not only academic growth, but also their personal development and confidence. When children feel agency, even in sickness, the recovery curve bends upwards, and their motivation becomes a driving force for their healing and to maintain hope. Our environment always matters, of course. Classroom flexibility and welcoming aesthetics always elevate the mood and the courage. Bright colors, modular furniture, and mobile whiteboards transform a sterile room into a creative studio. In particular, the practices of the arts teachers had significant therapeutic and educational value. They can use drawings, paintings, collages to help children express their emotions that they may not have words for. Sessions are often linked to a meaningful themes, such as sessions, seasons, international days, personal milestones, and so forth. For example, April the 2nd, the Earth Day. In one of our situations, one group created a recycled sculpture in nature-themed window displays. They sparked meaningful conversations about the environment and healing as well. Art lessons allow for flexibility in energy and concentration. A child can choose to work for 5 minutes or for 40 minutes, laying down or sitting upright, depending on their own current medical condition. This dynamic, these inclusive spaces, send a powerful message. Creativity thrives even in illness, and a child's voice matters. In this way, aesthetics and purposeful design become more than just decoration. They become tools for the motivation, child's communication, and maybe most importantly, their recovery. Our pupils range from patients to that checks out to intensive care patients. Two parameters guide our lesson planning: medical stability and cognitive readiness. A child in the ACU who has naturally rather low medical stability may receive 5-minute sensory stories, while a stable adolescent can tackle mathematics. In the graph that you can see, uh, the green area is the best situation, when child's medical stability is high and their cognitive readiness as well. In that case, child can reach their fullest potential. Unfortunately, there are situations when the child is in the red area. In that case, we cannot achieve much when it comes to educational progress, but we can keep child engaged and provide them as much emotional support as possible to go through their current difficulties. The yellow areas, which represent, for example, rather high cognitive readiness, but not so high medical stability, uh, are one of the cases in which we, of course, adapt our lessons. and our work, many of which we have said already before. Also, there are times when child has significant medical stability but feels exhausted and not ready so much to work. That's another yellow area. It's our work and our duty at that time to encourage them, to empower them, to be more prepared, to work more, to be more engaged, and basically to help lead them into the green area. Our teaching units are always condensed in blocks. We also use sometimes stop and resume strategy and keep alternate plans A, B, C, or D ready when needed. Every teacher also carries a pocket timetable that can flip on a moment's notice. As always, flexibility and adaptability is key in this environment. Before we wrap up, we will give a small historical note. Sarajevo's first hospital-based learning appeared informally during the 1992-95 war, when volunteer educators like Alexandra Fabrizio and Miriam Mavra supported displaced and hospitalized children. Their courage, creativity, and deep sense of purpose helped keep education alive even in the most challenging wartime conditions and the hospital at that. That groundwork, as well as the later doctoral studies demonstrating the significance of and pedagogical impact of hospital schooling, paved the way for the official schooling hospital launch in 2004. Since then, several thousand pupils from every corner of Bosnia and Herzegovina have continued their studies while receiving treatments under our guidance and our care, we can also say. What has begun as lone pedagogical voluntarism has grown into a respectable and sustainable institution. My call to action here is quite simple. Advocate for hospital schooling whenever children face either short or long-term illnesses and the corresponding treatments. Share this lecture, learn about this, collaborate with your local medical centers. As always said, education is not a luxury, it's a lifeline and a basic human right. Thank you for watching. On behalf of Elementary School Vrhbosna and our entire multidisciplinary team, we tell you to stay curious and stay compassionate. Thank you.